Hi everyone, my name is Anna Roisman. I am the founder of this program, Testmasters Online. This program is part of a larger educational initiative for the organization Global Quality Leadership Institute, which I founded in 2015. And the goal for the organization, which is a nonprofit, is to be the leader in advocating quality in technology. And as part of this goal, we are reaching out to different institutions, people, professionals with our offers and education, high-level educational program in software testing, quality assurance, and leadership. And what we're doing today is Testmasters Online. Testmasters Online is, as you all know, is the bringing the webinars and high-level professionals, thought leaders in our software testing field to the community in order to share knowledge and exchange of ideas and talk about these some hot topics in software testing. Our another initiative, which is called Contest NYC, is the conference, is a physical conference that is happening on November 14 to 16 in New York. And you can find the information about the conference either online on Testmasters Academy Online, testmastersacademy.org, or inside that Slack channel that we all gonna go after this webinar is done. So just to give you an overview, Lalit Bhamare is the editor-in-chief for Tea Time with Testers magazine. He is a famous speaker. He's an international speaker on different conferences. And his online magazine is very popular. It's one of the best, I would say, on the top of software testing publication in the world. And today, he's going to talk about evaluating and empowering testers in Agile team. Here's to Lalit.
Hi all, hope you're doing great today. So, an interesting topic that is bothering me from quite some time, and I decided to write about it. And then I talked with Anna, and we decided that it's an interesting topic, we should talk about it. Little bit about me before we start. As Anna has already explained, there are some other things that I do. I once in a while take BBST Foundation, teach BBST Foundations course with Association for Software Testing. I regularly assist James Buck with his Rapid Software Testing Applied class as a peer advisor, and once in a while I write blog on talesofTesting.com. Among other things, I enjoy playing with dogs, running around nature, and doing wildlife photography. That's about me. And now, so there is little story behind what made me ponder upon this topic of evaluating and empowering testers in Agile teams particularly. So this June I was in New York and I did workshop at Anna's conference for Test Masters Academy, Test Leadership Congress, and my topic was around whole team testing, how to promote it, what testers can do, what are the challenges. Lots of interesting people, lots of interesting insights, and during my discussions with people from different levels and experience in software testing field, one thing that stuck with my mind was the problem of testers being unfairly assessed during their performance reviews, and also the problem of hiring testers solely based on their automation skills. And this was something that bothered me. This is something many testers share as a concern across community, I believe. And this is where I decided to dig it down further. And this talk is about what I have gathered so far and what are my impressions and insights about this thing. So when I try to understand the problem better, I realized that more and more teams are going the agile way. It's a clear trend if you see the state of testing survey over the years. And with that change, a lot of organizations are moving from centralized QA unit to decentralized QA departments, more or less, and testers are now typically being part of agile teams. So normally one agile team has one tester, dedicated tester, and testers are reporting more to dev functions. In my observation and experience, what is happening is now testers are reporting to engineering leads, dev managers as they're reporting in their reporting structure. And usually these dev managers or test managers, so to say, do not have enough experience about software testing that they can use to evaluate, assess testers' performance in team, and also use that mindset and understanding while they are hiring new testers for their team. The growing trend has been that whenever there is a requirement for new tester in a team, the emphasis is solely on his ability to write automation code, his ability to understand the program written, his ability to write scripts for different things, some technical here and there things, and that's pretty much it. I firmly believe that even after spending 10 plus years in software testing now, technical skills and testers' ability to write automation script, these are important things, no doubt, but that has become a norm now. This is like very basic thing, and there are a lot of things testers can really do in agile teams, rather testers should do in agile teams to add more value with their work and achieve this quality product and their delivery faster in production. And in this talk, I'm going to talk about these things, what I think testers can contribute more, and how test managers, team leads can look beyond testers as bug finders and technical automators and see for the real value they can add in agile teams. Before that, I would like to share a short diagram with you. I think the key problem is the root cause of the problem is people's understanding around why they need testers in their team. There is still this wide understanding that testers are needed to find bugs, to automate the scripts, and that's pretty much it. And this is something that bothers me a lot. We are clearly lacking the awareness around what testers can really contribute, rather are contributing to the whole success of shipping quality product. It's not just about finding bugs, it's not just about writing automation code, but there are many other things on meta level that testers perform, they can perform, rather they should be trained and empowered to perform, to see the difference and to see the real value. I created this diagram based on my experience as a tester and after interviewing with a couple of programmers I have closely worked with. We kind of try to jot down what happens when tester in team is suddenly disappearing or is on vacation. Is it only the bugs and the automated scripts and writing of test cases impacted, or there are more things? And if you could see, there are certainly more things that get impacted. The team gets confused. There is uncertainty about making decisions that can impact software quality. There are confusions around making decisions about risk assessment, confusion and uncertainty around making decisions about doing impact analysis, how things would impact other teams, other cross-functional teams, how changes made by other cross-functional teams are likely to impact our team, and many other things. In teams where testers are owners of the deployment, there were deployments that got impacted. Again, typical tasks that testers perform were impacted, and there was pile of work that was pending completion. There were no bug investigations happening. Forget about reporting existing bugs, but uh, if there were some new or hidden bugs existing in production that were kind of needing people's attention and exploration, that did not happen. The risk assessment was missing. And this whole thing could result in a degraded feedback to controller, which is usually a team lead, engineering lead, program manager, dev lead, whatever you call it. And this is the essence of or the value tester can contribute to in agile teams, in my opinion. So their absence and their underutilization of performing activities that can provide a better feedback to controller, it can result in impaired control over the system, and it eventually can get disrupted. And when your system gets interrupted, it is very much possible that it goes and runs on the verge of runaway mode, and eventually it can result into collapse or explosion. Jerry Weinberg has explained this theory of collision and collapse and explosion in his book How Software is Built, and to understand it better, I recommend you to read his book. But the whole point here that I want to make is it's high time that all people associated with software quality, who are the beneficiary of testers' services, need to understand that there is a lot more they can contribute to than finding bugs and writing test scripts and automated scripts. And it is very important, and it's high time that people see and look out for other things they are doing and try to appreciate it and empower them to do it better. So as I said, in my opinion and experience, the key role that testers perform in team is to provide information to stakeholders. This information can be in terms of bugs they find, the risk they kind of identify, the gaps in requirement they find out, the third party impact they can perceive from their discussion with testers in other team, typical user behaviors they can predict from their experience from different domains. There are lots of things that can contribute to this information umbrella that testers can provide to their stakeholders, based on which the stakeholders can take informed decision about what to do next. And these people, testers, are the best people, in my opinion, to provide this quality feedback so that controller system is not impaired and system does not get into collapse explosion mode. Now let's see what things, in my opinion, are there beyond automation and programming skills that testers should be evaluated against, be it for hiring or be it for their performance assessment. The key thing that I would like to emphasize on is testers being primary analyzers of production logs and alerts. If you're not doing log jam monitoring or uh, uh, analyzing your production logs and alert system, I think it's high time that you should ask your testers to do it. Or if you're not considering this criteria in hiring new testers in your team, I strongly recommend you to assess them for this experience and their insights around this thing. This skill is very much important, in my opinion, and from my personal experience after I started monitoring and getting deeper into production logs. The time spent on back and forth of sending build for testing and deployment can be greatly reduced if testers are owning deployment of the system itself. And when they are the owner of deploying your production code, they are also getting aware of the infrastructure that is lying behind, and that understanding of your infrastructure can help them design more tests that could be maybe not related to the functionality of your product itself, but that could still give them more insight into how the delivery of the product into production is going to be impacted because of all these infrastructure related issues. And this is something I think more extra area where testers can deep dig deeper and use that information for becoming more valuable to their team. Participating in deployment process, as I explained, can help them understand the infrastructure better, and this understanding can also help them shelf and better analyze the log and use those logs and the information coming from those logs for better technical investigation and observations of the application itself. I remember of creating more test cases by observing the production logs, the error logs there, which were kind of hard to imagine for me just as a tester or programmer of the team. Users use application in variety of ways. There are many different user states that exist in our production system, and production logs, I think, are the best ways to identify how our product is actually being used, what different user states that are there that exist, what kind of contracts can exist, what kind of complexities can exist in our product. And this information can serve as a very interesting and powerful source for identifying hidden risks in our production system. And that understanding of risk can be used for doing better risk assessment and creating more valuable tests for testers for their further testing. Over the period of time when such insights are acquired, I think using their sharp observation skills and familiarity with known issues and ability to quickly analyze the gaps, testers can easily help identify the root cause of the problems as soon as they see some familiar production error coming after deployment. I think it's not just enough that your system alerts you for issues that are there, but it would also help if there is somebody who knows how to read those and how to interpret that information in terms of what it really means to your production failure, in terms of your functionality, in terms of its impact on your business and other important aspects of your product's quality. The more testers make themselves familiar with, the better it is for their ability to contribute beyond their regular job as a tester, I would say. Uh, and participating in production deployments and monitoring can definitely foster better collaboration and pairing between programmers and testers, which has benefit of its own. I mean, I don't have to explain pair testing. I don't have to explain in detail what benefits are there when programmers and testers are pairing together. But one of the key realization for me has been that after I started monitoring production logs, analyzing them for defect analysis, I could connect better with the programmer. I could pair better with programmer, and our pairing became more productive than before because more or less it helped me to speak the language they understand. It helped me to understand how they're doing their debugging for production issues or even on their systems, and that kind of helped me understand their way of thinking. And this is a very essential aspect in making your pair testing successful. So that was about understanding and taking ownership of production logs. Uh, if you're not doing it as a tester, I recommend that you should do it and highlight this contribution in your performance reviews, or you can spread more awareness about this and make other testers in your team more productive. Second important thing in my opinion is testers can be very good enhancers of your product's coverage for quality. Typically in Agile team, there are user stories written and then there is this acceptance criteria written. And usually in typical sprint setup, this acceptance criteria serves as a single source of information or final source of coverage for product for quality that testers stick to. And sometimes if testers are more productive, they go beyond this acceptance criteria and try to automate the newly built feature they're doing. And that's it. That's how it typically happens in Agile teams in my experience. I feel a skilled tester can definitely go beyond this typical acceptance criteria, which usually revolves around just a functional aspect of that particular user story. It is very important that testers are assessing each user story on the criteria way beyond the functional aspect. And this is where this SFDAPOT, San Francisco Depot heuristic by James Buck, widely known as a product coverage heuristic for software testing, can be used. So there are things like structure, what comprises the physical structure of a product, what lies inside the core, what are the interfaces there, how it is interacting inside itself, how it is interacting with different file system, can be one part that testers can use to assess and derive more information, derive more test cases, and add more coverage to the criteria they have in place. Functionality, it's a very typical functional test case, I would say. Data related tests. Data is a very important aspect, how different types of data your software is able to perform. What way of inputting that data is making an impact, what kind of file systems are accepted, what kind of impact it is having on your database, what kind of properties of that data are useful and harmful for your system. Interfaces, you have usually cross-functional teams, cross-functional dependencies, interdependencies, internal dependencies. What kind of dependencies are there? What kind of interfaces are there where there is exchange happening? And what kind of impact that particular user story can have on this interface level. Time related test, what you're doing today, is it relevant after a couple of days? Is it relevant after some time? Are there any scheduling jobs that need to be taken into consideration for that particular change? Are these tests going to be time bound? Is this state of user or data going to expire after a certain time? Is it supposed to be in particular time frame to take an effect? There are lots of things that can be time dependent. Platform related tests, if you are testing it on mobile system, if you're testing it on Android, iOS, if you're testing it on different browsers, if you're testing it on different operating system, different environments. Operations, how is the software going to be used? Do you know about different personas that you can consider for designing more tests? Is the software going to be used by users from different age group, from different abilities, from different regions where different country rules may apply? What kind of operations they are going to perform? Is there going to be an abuse of the software? Is there going to be a disfavored use? Are they going to use it just in a particular straightforward fashion? How exactly you expect your users to use and perform operations on your software, on your product? So every once in a while, it is important, rather for every user story, it is important, in my opinion, that tester pays attention to the coverage of your product beyond typical functional aspect that your user story would cover. Sometimes that would make sense, but in most of the cases, I would suggest you at least give it a try and see what all things are applicable for your user story in that particular context, so that you are ensuring that you have enough coverage for your product while you're deriving more tests for that particular user story. A skilled tester would do it. And this is something you can use as a tool to analyze and assess your testers in your team. Like, are they sticking just with typical acceptance criteria? Are they going beyond what is there? While interviewing testers, you can definitely use this heuristic as a tool for evaluating what more elements of product they are aware of, what more criteria for software quality they can suggest to improve. And I think this is where you can get real value by going beyond automation and scripting skills. Coming on to the next part, which is highly important in current situation, I would say, and it is about testability of software. A skilled tester wouldn't just find bugs in software, wouldn't just report his finding that are impacting software quality, but they would also advocate their project teams in improving the testability of the product. Testability in its simplest form, in my opinion, is how easy it is to test the product you're going to deploy, you're going to ship to user. Sometimes testers really have to struggle a lot to achieve very simple things for their testing. For example, I do have experience of testing mobile apps on test environments where for making purchase for second time, I had to wait for 2 hours because that was the window for me to make new purchase again. This is highly inconvenient and greatly impacts the testability of the software I would like to test. This is just one example. There are multiple aspects of testability. And I strongly recommend you to check out this heuristic by James Buck on software testability, and there they have explained different possibilities around software testability. What catches my attention the most, which I personally find more valuable and applicable from tester point of view, is their understanding of this intrinsic testability. This is something they can contribute to in terms of their association with programmers and discussions. So what does intrinsic testability include? It includes different parameters, I would say, or criteria of your product that can contribute to better testability. So observability, how easy it is for you to observe the behaviors shown by the product. Uh, I think this stats for nerds on YouTube videos, if you check by right clicking on it, is a very good example of observability. It would be very painful if you have to run into logs all the time to see what is really happening when you're performing certain action on your software. But it would be definitely useful if while making that operation itself on the software, somehow you're getting to see, you're getting to analyze, you're getting to visualize what exactly happening. I think this is where your dashboards for monitoring can help you. A spike or some other red alerts while you're running your automated scripts, for example, on your software can tell you what impact your test and the operations you're performing on your software or your functionality under test is having, and you can use that information to observe things, derive more tests, find out risky areas, and shape up your further tests based on that. Controllability, how easy it is to control your software or the product you're testing so that you can perform different tests. I have some project specific examples that I have worked. So for example, whenever we are making purchases, we are sending some XYZ information to another cross-functional team. And sometimes that information is used to do backtracking and analyzing if there are some issues with contracts, some purchases are failing. There are some possibilities and some information that we can send in terms of metadata information while making this purchase, which is kind of not very useful for product to function from user point of view. However, that information can be very much useful for we programmers and testers for defect analysis, for analyzing if there are any issues and complaints coming from users, and to find out if there is something more we can do. So these are certain things in my experience you can use as a tool and suggestion for improvement in your project teams if you understand observability, controllability better. Algorithmic simplicity, it's kind of self-explanatory. The less buggy your software it is, the better control you can have over more important things. Smallness depends on the architecture and model of your product that you have. The less complicated it is, the small it is, the better it is again for controlling, I would say, and focusing. Decomposability goes, I think, hand in hand with smallness, where different part of product can be separated from each other, and then we can isolate them better for focused testing, deep testing, and again, isolating bugs, investigating them, and again, I think also for better impact analysis when you are making changes. Similarity, I think this goes hand in hand with another heuristic for Oracle we have in place, few hiccups. The more similar your product is with widely used products in market, probably the more intuitive it becomes for users to use and also for testers to figure out how much compatible it is with compatible product in market, how much compatible it is with trusted technology, uh, trusted framework. And I think this information is useful for them to make an informed decision about, let's say, what test automation framework they should use, what tools they can select, what technology they can select for making those things work for them. And that's about interesting testability to the best of my knowledge of uh, this testability aspect. There is more. I strongly recommend you to read and figure out how it applies to your product and in the context of your projects. But a skill tester would definitely try to educate himself about testability thing and how he can advocate his team to achieve better testability for the software they are building together. Please look for this ability in your tester if you're hiring or if you're evaluating them, and encourage them to do more. My favorite topic of the year. I think UX people are better allies for software testers in company. It's like the challenges faced by both these teams are way too similar, pretty much similar, and more or less their goal is also similar. So UX works hard towards achieving better user experience, better interaction experience to solve some product problems by offering certain behaviors, by helping users behave in certain way that achieves the business goal, and also to make product more usable for users. And goal of testers is also on the similar lines to help team achieve a product quality that users would appreciate. If these two disciplines collaborate together regularly, they do brainstorming sessions regularly, I think there is a lot value they can contribute to. Let's say UX individual comes with a solution that he thinks is the best for that particular situation. For that one best solution, a tester can provide 10 ways in which it might fail miserably. I look at this thing in this way. So, way of UX designer is more from design thinking point of view, and the way testers operate is more from their understanding of system thinking, their understanding of system they operate into. And these two things can be greatly benefited if they are fused together and used together and sometimes against each other to validate each other's impact on product quality. So testers can use their understanding of product itself, known features, known failures, third-party dependencies, their understanding of plans other teams might be having to validate the solution coming from UX designer. And this can in turn provide UX designers for about different possibilities that they should ideally take into consideration, because it's not only the end user in the end that matters, it's also the entire process of pushing that prototype up to the end user. And in this process, there are lots of things that can happen. You might have to do bargain with third parties. You might have to do bargain and compromises with the platforms and technologies you're using. You might have to do bargain with some kind of business critical impacts the solution might have. And I think testers are the best partners for identifying these dependencies earlier and save a lot of cost and repeated research and prototyping and user test if these two disciplines, excuse me, regularly collaborate. On other hand, UX people are also a best source of oracle for testers. If testers use their research data, their statistical information for designing better user tests, so out of 10 desired user behaviors, not everything will be a top priority for particular functionality. Maybe there will be certain user segment that is more valuable for that particular feature, and such kind of data you can always get from UX. You can use UX designers as your counterpart, devil's advocate for your test ideas, how they look at user behaviors, how they have experience, and how you can design better test considering user point of view, different personas that they are aware of. So I would suggest start collaborating more and regular with UX people. A QA and UX together can form and help organization achieve QX, what I call as quality experience. And I think the fusion of system thinking and design thinking together and against each other sometimes can definitely yield very interesting results. A skilled tester, in my opinion, in your team would try to facilitate this collaboration, and he will try to establish this engagement and make it part of your process, I would say, or they would probably come up with some process and protocols where this engagement and collaboration becomes part of your organization culture. So if you are to hire a tester or if you want to evaluate them, look for these abilities that they are going beyond their typical comfort zone, going beyond their typical roles they interact with, and how they are best utilizing their communication skills, their abilities to collaborate with disciplines with similar challenges and similar goals, and how they are able to integrate this whole collaboration approach for increasing and offering better quality product. Another interesting thing that I personally experienced and I think can be very valuable if testers can reach out to, let's say, marketing team or your user care team if they are there in your organization. A lot of times, user care is the primary point of contact for user complaints. And in my experience, I have seen way too different and way too complex user situations that user care was approached with. And I could never imagine of such scenarios with my ability as a tester and with my understanding of the product. Because your product has a history, maybe there are some historical contracts in place, there are historical functionalities in place, and there are users having those contracts, beneficiaries of those features and contracts in place. And over the period of time, your application changed, your policy changed, features you are offering has changed, and this can result into very complex situation where you have to keep the existing user base happy while you need to work on creating new user base. And complaints coming from user care could be a very good proxy for you to understand what kind of systems, what kind of users, what kind of functionalities that existed before, what kind of policies about your product and features that existed before or that must continue, and how they are now impacting the upcoming changes in your product or even existing offerings that your product has to make. This relation, this understanding, this knowledge is very important for testers to be more aware of the situation around them, to create more useful test scenarios, to identify and assess risks from broader perspective. In exchange, tester can always educate user care people with typical hacks they have in place. So sometimes user care needs to reproduce some scenario to figure out what exactly is happening with users. Sometimes users are not apt in explaining their problem, which is why user care needs to replay the scenario, analyze the situation from their side. And if testers become their partner or technical helper in this case, I think they can together achieve a lot more. They can prevent user care from reporting bugs which are very obvious things or which are having less significance, which are known issues. And this is something in terms of time and efforts can save a lot for an organization. So try to collaborate more and more with user care. I'm sure you will be very pleased with the information about user complaints and scenarios and complexities of your product in terms of functionality in the list that you will get introduced to. And most definitely you can use this knowledge for contributing more and more to your product quality for future use. And this is something bit tricky, bit political, very much depends on observation skills of a tester, but I would explain it in anyway. So I personally find myself very sharp, and I have worked with some other testers who are very sharp in observing people around them in terms of their understanding of the product, in terms of their weak areas, in terms of understanding of product, in terms of their dynamics with each other, in terms of how good they are getting along with each other for collaboration, Where are the loopholes? Where are their weak points? What are their strong points that testers can utilize for achieving something better? This is important skill. These testers, good testers rather, are naturally or over the period of time get trained with their observation skills. And if they apply these observation skills on people around them, situation around them, context in which they operate, or in a nutshell, system around them, I think they can gather a very valuable feedback, very valuable information to give it back to the controller or use that in the form of retrospective in a constructive way that can help team becomes aware of the things that they are kind of not noticing, which are getting unnoticed unknowingly. A good tester with ability to observe these things on meta level, on very minute level, can be a very good value add in a team for identifying such issues and get them noticed. Another thing is testers are usually in contact with testers from other team, and if you're working for a bigger network or the product which has a lots of dependencies of business plans, functionalities among different applications, I think this collaboration and networking of tester can definitely help in identifying what plans other team is having in terms of their release and schedule, what plan your team is having, what kind of dependency this plan or these changes in functionality can have on each other. I think these are the risks that testers can highlight way too early if they are aware of the system around them. And this again comes with their ability to observe things. So when testers are combining these observation skills and their ability to draw inferences and implications from things they observe, they can use that information for creating a valuable information for controller so that they can act early and take decisions that matter. And this can certainly help controller to avoid system from getting into collapse or explosion mode. I think that was pretty much it that I could gather so far. Uh, so the whole point that I wanted to make is there are lots of things beyond finding bugs, beyond writing automated script, beyond writing just test cases that a tester can contribute into team. If they are allowed to explore their own potential beyond these typical tasks, and if they're empowered and mentored to explore these abilities beyond their typical task, I'm very sure that their value, their ability to add value to Agile team can increase a lot more, and probably their own satisfaction of their worth and their importance in team can increase a lot more. And I think this will be a win-win situation for everybody. And again, if you want to hire a tester in your Agile team, but are probably not aware of things that do matter, I strongly recommend you to consider these other aspects too. I'm sure that will help you identify right candidate who is not just technically strong, but who has right attitude, right awareness, and right understanding about his own abilities, his own skills as a tester. So that's all from me on this topic so far. If there is more, I will write about it and we can always talk. So thank you for listening, and I'm open for questions now.
All right, thank you very much, Lalit. We're gonna move the Q&A to the Slack channel, and I'm gonna stop this recording and we're gonna move there. And please, if you start your question, start with the Q so we know that it's a question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.